What's up, everyone? Another video. Crazy, right? Yeah, I'm trying to be actually back. We're gonna talk about my biggest PvP pet peeves today. I'm letting you know right now, up front, that I am not that serious about this. I obviously know what I'm signing up for when I play Destiny 2, but I'm still gonna poke fun at it because it can be super ridiculous sometimes, and I think you'll agree with that. I'm gonna rate these bad boys, all these different things you can do, from 1 to 10 on both usefulness in combat, like how likely it is to actually get me killed, and obnoxiousness. Let's start with the Antaeus Wards. I am of the opinion that interesting counterplay is just integral to a well-rounded PvP experience. And nothing says interesting counterplay like, I'm rubber, you're glue, whatever you shoot bounces off me and makes you regret playing this dumb game. What the hell am I supposed to do about these things? Like not fire back and just let them kill me? Embrace that death was inevitable from the very moment they got within sliding distance? Maybe mountaintop the ground to deprive them of the satisfaction? I just hate deaths against an enemy where no matter how well I aim, I'm just doomed because I can't shoot them, but they can still shoot me. As if a Titan sprinting towards you wasn't scary enough before this exotic got its buff, now it turns out my own bullets might be double agents. I feel like the only hard counter here is going to orbit, and I mean, obviously I get that this exotic doesn't make you literally invincible, but it's just so freaking annoying to have that life-saving hand cannon shot turn on you in your darkest hour. And some of the trash goblins who equip this exotic really go to town with it too. Some players slide back and forth on sniping lanes from a mile away, baiting you to waste your sniper shots like there's some kind of actual skill or strategy involved in doing an impression of a dog scratching its butt on the carpet. Like, yeah, we see your exotic armor, very cute, but are you almost done? I feel like they have to know what they're doing is totally impractical, but still they do. Antaeus Wards gets a 9 out of 10 for usefulness, and an 8.2 out of 10 for obnoxiousness. A shotgun's best friend is practical invulnerability while sliding, so Antaeus Wards are actually strong. But they really only fit an aggressive playstyle, and not everybody who uses them plays aggressively. They score high on the obnoxious scale because that split moment of, what am I even supposed to do right now, while Titan is shielded by them is just barely long enough to reconsider why you're even playing the game at all. Number 2, Citadel Ramparts. Oh my god, why? This exotic is the Bastion Ursa combo cheese of Destiny. All you have to do is throw up a barricade to transform into an invincible turret because Duck Hunter Simulator is apparently your preferred playstyle. There's literally no way to engage an already set sight and rampart shield that isn't disadvantageous. No matter what angle you try to peek from, they're gonna see you first and they're gonna shoot you first.
Hey,
this exotic should just be renamed Stalemate, because whenever someone equips it, best play for both sides is just wait for their opponent to walk forward. In fact, the only thing keeping this exotic from becoming a plague on the game is that, thanks to goodness, both Titans and passive play are usually unpopular choices. Abusing this exotic by playing passively behind your shields is practically a physical manifestation of Resident Sleeper. Seriously, if a team has multiple people using this exotic actively, it will take all of 1 round for you to be like, how did this get through playtesting? It's the same strategic concept as 3-peeking, except they can shoot you when they see you. Genuinely, the only thing that makes this exotic not the worst thing ever in Destiny history is that not very many people use it and play to its strengths. Run a private match Elim lobby with everyone at 100 resilience using Citadel Ramparts and just see how much fun everyone has. I guarantee you, it will not be fun. One of the more obnoxious parts about this exotic is that, like some other abilities, it preys on the game's inadequate radar design. Players in Destiny are conditioned to expect a peek fight when they see red enemy indication around the corner, but what radar doesn't tell you is that a shrewd little rat is sitting comfortably behind the safety of a sight and rampart barrier, so you round the corner prepared for a gentleman's duel decided by dexterity and precision, only to face off against a duck hunt bot, and then you're the duck. Citadel Ramparts gets a respectable 8 out of 10 for usefulness, because provided you aren't playing like a little weenie baby, it's still a pretty useful exotic with clear advantages in elimination, at a minimum. However, it gets a mighty 9.7 out of 10 on the obnoxious scale. Setting a barrier to prepare for a fight shuts down the fight on the spot, and I can think of no single term to better describe that than obnoxious. It would be a 10 out of 10, but it could probably still be more obnoxious if it buffed shots going through the shield. Just don't tell Bungie I said that, or you know what'll happen. Third up is Ursa Furiosa, which is criminally underrated for Defender Titans because it combines the incredible strategic power of literal invincibility with the deeply nuanced mechanic of giving you a bunch of super energy. Unless your entire team is paying deliberate attention to how you deal with that, and you know that the exotic is going to be equipped on the enemy Titan, it's very likely that you're going to charge the enemy's super again. This is pretty much the sickest mechanic ever because it gives you exactly 0 smart options to deal with the impending slaughter of your team, except scurry away like the little insect you are. Ursa Furiosa gets the full 10 out of 10 on both usefulness and obnoxiousness scale because it straight up buffs the super to a point where attempting to shut it down is somehow a mistake, and because it requires no commitment whatsoever to the exotic in order to achieve that. Why can't it only refund the amount of super you charge while wearing it? Questions for another day, I suppose. But this exotic completes the triumvirate of obnoxious ways Titans can punish you for attempting to fight them. Each of these glorious specimens creates a uniquely unfun mechanic that I would gladly turn off given the option. Before we continue, I would like to remind you that these exotics are in no way game-breaking as a whole. They are just obnoxious to play against. Basically, if you use these things, nobody's blood pressure is thanking you for it. Moving right along, we have Dunemarchers. Getting punished for existing on the same map as my teammates is just so eye-roll inducing. Why am I taking a billion damage because my teammate on the other side of the universe got meleeed? God forbid a third person is around and we all just die. How is he even supposed to avoid that death from above nonsense in the first place? But now I'm getting punished for it too? Something about this exotic makes me feel like I should be calling my lawyer, because there's just no way killing an entire team with a melee ability, just one, is legal. Titans do like playing aggressively, and ape's gonna ape, but allowing the artifact to unlock full charge Hyper Monkey is just irresponsible. This exotic, with artifact, transforms a smooth brain melee harakiri into a full team wipe way too easily. This combination alone makes me want to actively avoid artifact enabled PvP, and that's not a joke. With artifact enabled, Dunemarchers is a perfect 10 out of 10 for both usefulness and obnoxiousness. It's so strong and so unavoidable, I just cannot stand it. Without artifact, it's still a respectable 8 out of 10 for usefulness because it fits aggressive playstyles just like Antaeus Wards do, and a 7 out of 10 for obnoxiousness since free unavoidable damage to your enemies is still not okay. I do not like getting punished because my teammate is in the same general vicinity as me, it just punishes me for playing with the team. Dunemarchers with Rice is a 4 out of 10. My last Titan mention is the Thundercrash Super. However, I'm not going to go into much depth on that one because, while it feels unfair and unavoidable, I can't deny it is pretty badass. If my team's gonna get hopelessly obliterated, at least it costs a whole supercharge and looks cool as hell. We're finally into the territory of Warlocks, class number 2. I haven't been bothered by any Warlock tomfoolery recently outside of a single subclass, Top Tree Dawnblade, and I'm on the fence about it because it's also the most well fleshed out class in the game. When a class adds so much character to the gameplay with an entirely unique combat mechanic, something we've never seen before, it's really hard to want to complain about that, but for you, my YouTube audience, I will persevere. Celestial Fire Melee is on this list, despite the fact that I don't find it particularly awful to get killed by, because after reflecting on it, I think the reason it doesn't feel awful is that the sheer variety of jaw-dropping ways I die in this game has just numbed me to how patently unfair and instantaneous, long-ranged, homing melee with a dash of AoE is. More than anything else, Celestial Fire doesn't pretend to be a thoughtfully balanced ability with counterplay, but then make you cap yourself with a hand cannon until you stop hitting yourself, why are you hitting yourself? No. Celestial Fire doesn't beat around the bush at all. It just waits until you're weak and then sucker punches the rest of your health bar. This ability gets a 10 out of 10 for usefulness because, honestly, what is better than an instantaneous, homing ranged melee? But it gets a 3 out of 10 for obnoxiousness, owing to the fact that I'm pretty sure most of the time it kills me, I would probably die to something else anyway. Actually, I guess I do sometimes get into gunfights where a Warlock swipes his palm out from a mile and I'm like, oh, that idiot pressed the melee button on accident, easy win for me. And then I explode. That's probably just me though, I don't see you guys making that mistake as much as I do. Next one. Sometimes I'll be playing a Crucible match when I sense a slight movement out of the corner of my eye. But that can't be, my brain interjects. You see, that rooftop is clearly too high for any enemies to be. Surely it is a trick of the eye, or maybe a harmless bird. Satisfied with my brain's work, I accept this explanation and lower my guard. Right as I tab back into RuneScape to continue fishing, my team is picked off one by one and our ghosts are looking at each other like, what the hell just happened? The silence breaks as a Warlock gently falls to the ground, making direct eye contact with the camera as he does. He dusts off his coat, calls my team trash in Japanese, and holsters his sniper before bounding across the city in a single jump. The fight, if you could call it that, was over before we even knew it had begun. He was merely playing with us all along. If it isn't obvious yet, I'm talking about Heat Rises. This ability is so fun to play against that I often hear it affectionately called the mosquito, so being compared to a parasitic blood-sucking insect is a pretty solid start for how I feel about it. The thing is, it wouldn't be a problem if Radar equipped us to fight back against it, but this ability is practically impossible to be aware of. Either the radar doesn't show anything and you die to an enemy you couldn't have expected, or the radar does show something and you round the corner looking way too low for where the enemy actually is, which is pretty understandable as a mistake considering 26 out of 27 subclasses in the game can never get 15 seconds of hang time with accuracy for all of it. We don't naturally look up in the sky because enemies aren't supposed to be there. This ability plays on everyone's 6 years of conditioning in the Crucible, and again, just to be clear, I'm not saying it's outright unfair or anything, but it's very annoying to be killed by an enemy that gets the jump on me because my singular tool for awareness, the radar, doesn't know how to deal with it. Even if I know to expect the enemy team might be doing that, I don't have any way to know for sure that they are doing that because audio cues are largely optional in the world of Bungie. I'll give Heat Rises a 10 out of 10 for usefulness because it's one of the few abilities in the game with a deep skill gap to it, but also a 10 out of 10 for obnoxiousness, since even considering that skill gap, it only works because we have every reason to expect the enemies to be on the ground and no way to know that they aren't until it's too late. Both this ability and Celestial Fire wouldn't be too crazy if not for the fact that Top Tree Dawn also has a strong super, decent grenades, and the fastest neutral game movement in the game with no exotic required for it. Top Tree Dawnblade is really cool, but it is definitely overtuned to achieve that coolness. It's just a class with no drawbacks and full advantages. I gotta admit though, it is super cool, and that's really unique, and it's another one of those things where even though it's super obnoxious sometimes, I guess it's interesting enough to get a pass overall. Doesn't change that it's annoying Bungie cheese their own radar though. On the less effective side, but still very obnoxious, is hunters who spam their dodge to turn invisible or misdirect me with Gemini Jesters. Neither of these strategies are so effective that I feel they warrant a huge amount of discussion, but that almost makes them more obnoxious. Like, dude, I can see you. Running straight at me with a shotgun while you're camouflaged does not make you completely invisible, my guy. You're just embarrassing everyone every time you die doing that. To be fair, it does sometimes work, and I feel like my expression has to be like just the same face Dado would make when that happens. Is it really worth dying 5 times to catch me off guard once for a free kill? Camo gets a 7 out of 10 for usefulness since, at the end of the day, it's better to have than to not have, although gimping your super to achieve it, not really the greatest. And the deaths caused by it are really usually caused by botting out, not by camo itself. For the obnoxiousness, I'll give it a 5, for no reason other than I suspect that the people who use this think they are cleverer than they actually are. Gemini Jester gets a 4 out of 10 for usefulness because in all the time I have ever been affected by this exotic, I have only faced one team that actually benefited from it. Playing smart around the misdirection is possible, but I can't help but think it's just outplaying your opponents as you would otherwise, but with extra steps. It gets a 9 out of 10 for obnoxiousness rating for this exact reason. It isn't even helping you win the game, it's just bothering me while I'm losing. Stop it, man. Get some help.
Stop it. Get some help.
Actually, on that note, it's kind of crazy that both of these abilities have audio cues that give away the position on activation, despite the fact that they are actually designed with the deliberate intention of catching enemies off guard. While Heat Rises has no such cue. Ironically, Heat Rises is the trickier ability because Bungie didn't actively try to make it tricky and then neuter it by balancing it around that idea. In other words, I think if Bungie intended for Heat Rises to be tricky, it wouldn't be. Funny how that works. But there's actually one ability so blatant and stupid that it shouldn't need to be taken apart in any depth for people to see what a problem it is, and that is third-person peeking. When people emote behind the safety of walls in Trials of Osiris, it tells my team that the enemy team is about to be a total hassle to play against. This is not fun at all. It puts a passive team at a clear advantage and, big surprise, the best response to an opponent 3-peeking is to just do the same to them. Worse still is 3-peeking with a sword, which doesn't show any text in the chat feed, and it allows you to move on third person. Worse still is using Foe Tracer while doing that to mark enemies while moving in third person and allowing your teammates to know where they are without ever letting the enemy see you. Everything about 3-peeking, conceptually and otherwise, is an inappropriate fit for a first-person shooter. The lack of objective creates a situation where there's no disadvantage to third-person peeking, but it does offer some chance at an advantage since you'll know immediately if your opponent makes a mistake in their positioning. It just reminds me of, have you ever had a thumb war as a kid? You know, the game where you grip each other's fingers and try to pin each other's thumbs, with that being the only digit you move? It reminds me of when people would have a thumb war and one person just like pulls their thumb back really far so that you can't actually physically reach far enough forward with your thumb to get around them. That's what 3-peeking is like. Like, okay, cool. All you've done is make the game not fun. Consider for a moment what 3-peeking looks like if you take away the third-person camera. It's just a team sitting back, waiting for the enemy team to push. Not trying to fight, not trying to control lanes, not rotating to a better position, just waiting. Literally doing nothing. Waiting for the opponent to make the first move, and knowing that they will have an advantage if the opponent does make the first move. It really wouldn't be a problem if it presented any disadvantage, but it just does the opposite. Since 3-peaking makes it riskier for people to try to engage you, they don't have any strong strategic choices except to play passively as well. So when one team 3-peaks, it drags the game down to a slug's pace and there's nothing the other team can do about it. Those of you who don't see the issue with 3-peaking existing in the game, or don't see why anyone would complain about it, this is the reason. 2 teams signed up to compete in the deep end, but one decided they were more comfortable in the kiddie pool once the game started, and now both teams have to play in the kiddie pool. One team did not want to play in the kiddie pool. 3-peaking gets a usefulness of 10 out of 10 because it is extra awareness with absolutely no disadvantage, and that is kind of shameful on Bungie's part. There's just no reason not to do it with a sword whenever you're behind cover, and even if it doesn't help you, it can't hurt you. On the obnoxiousness scale, 3-peaking gets a score of 200 billion out of 10. Can we please agree to stop doing this until Bungie actually fixes it? I know this video has been a little ridiculous with the whining, like I'm mostly joking here, but I'm pretty serious about this one. Please stop 3-peaking. Every time you do this, you're actively making the game less fun for the people you're playing against, and that's just not good for any party involved because it only takes so many slow weeks of trials before people are like, man, this game really could be more fun than it is because of the players, and it's honestly not really Bungie's fault entirely except for their negligence in fixing it. Alright, that's enough for now. Thanks for watching, thanks for listening. Hope you got a laugh out of at least like one of these. Maybe. Subscribe if you liked the video, head over to my Twitch and follow it if you like the content in general. Wee-oo, wee-oo. Enjoy the rest of your day, everyone.